Good morning, St. Lucia, and good morning to everyone joining us regionally and internationally across the Caribbean and throughout the diaspora. Welcome to the BOSL Story, a national unveiling. I'm Ernie St. Catherine, and I have the honor of serving as your host on this momentous occasion. At this time, please rise where you are able for the playing of our national anthem. Thank you. Please be seated. I'd like at this time to recognize our distinguished guests from our Cabinet of Ministers, the Honorable Stephenson King, Senior Minister, Honorable Emma Hippolyte, Attorney General, Honorable Leslie Mondesir. Also with us, obviously, the Chairman of the Bank of St. Lucia, Chairman of the Board, Mr. Everest Jean-Marie, and board members, the Chief Executive Officer, the Managing Director of Bank of St. Lucia, Mr. Rolf Phillips, his C-suite, and also his team members who are with us this morning as well. And to everyone joining us here at our host venue, the Financial Administrative Center, Point Surf in Castries, and to our viewers online, welcome. And yes, the mood is, too easy. Independence. We officially recognized independence yesterday, Sunday. So today comes with that extra glow for some of us. It's that extra I'm here, but my pillow is still calling me. Thank you for showing up. A special note this morning, the government of St. Lucia has graciously included this unveiling in the official program for St. Lucia's 47th anniversary of independence. Round of applause to the government and their recognition of this milestone. We're honored and grateful. And a quick broadcast note, we are live on local television and streaming live also on Facebook, YouTube, and Zoom. So please smile responsibly. Well, let's get the show on the road, shall we? And what better place to start than at the beginning? Ladies and gentlemen, pioneers of progress.
Some stories transcend time, shaping the destiny of a people. The journey of the Bank of St. Lucia is one of these, woven into the aspirations of a young and growing nation, shaping who we are today and fueling the hopes and dreams we hold for the future. In this first chapter of our three-part series, we journey back to a transformative time in our nation's history, socially, economically, and politically. A pivotal era when two pioneering institutions, the St. Lucia Development Bank and the National Commercial Bank, laid the foundation for what would one day become the Bank of St. Lucia. So what forces gave birth to these pioneering institutions? Who were the visionaries bold enough to dream beyond the moment? And how did their efforts transform the financial landscape, ultimately giving rise to the largest bank in St. Lucia and the OACS region? Well, come with me and let us uncover the answers in their own words as we explore the BOSL story through Pioneers of Progress.
I was managing the politics And at the same time, I was also committed to forming those two banks.
I came back to St. Lucia in 1981 to do two things.
I felt that I was contributing something to the country, to the economy.
We started with about 5 of us.
The staff at the bank at the time did not know what it was to have an internal auditor. So they didn't understand the role. They saw you as the enemy from within.
You have to remember that we are coming out of the black nationalist period, where the emphasis was, of course, to return assets to the people of the respective countries.
Mikey Pilgrim's leadership during the formation of the National Commercial Bank was instrumental in establishing it as a cornerstone of St. Lucia's financial sector. His influence extended beyond banking, as he also served as interim prime minister during this transformative period, guiding the nation through key moments in its development.
So I found myself in a situation where I was managing the politics, and at the same time, I was also committed to forming those two banks, because both of those banks were the creation of Hilford de Tourville, who was after me all the time to ensure that I don't lose the focus and I make these banks a reality. My strategy was that I had to select a board of directors, and that board had to be persons with credibility and beyond reproach. So I set about looking for persons I think that would be accepted by the country, by the public. You couldn't criticize these persons. You couldn't say it was a bank which was politically charged either way, and consequently, I think that gave the people of St. Lucia the confidence that a real bank was being established. And the first thing that came to mind was George Theophilus.
BOSL Story, George Theophilus, Scene 6, Take 1.
I think historically we should reflect on the work of two people particularly, Mikey Pilgrim and George Girard. And of course I was at the ECCA at the time, East Caribbean Currency Authority at the time. And it was Mikey's dream that we should have our own financial institution, recognizing that at that time all the banks, commercial banks, were owned by foreign institutions. And I used to be the advisor, so to speak, while I was at the ECCA. So George Girard and Mikey Pilgrim would be calling me from time to time. And then the decision was taken that the bank should be established in St. Lucia. And we had to make sure that we had the right people in place, not only to establish the bank, but also to direct it in the right direction. So that's the reason why I came back to St. Lucia in 1981 to do two things. First of all, to help in the establishment of both the development bank and the commercial bank, and also to ensure that the commercial bank was closely allied with the development bank, that the two institutions did not see themselves as competitors.
I consider him to be a true patriot because, without mentioning figures, we offered him a salary, and his first reaction was, no, I cannot accept that salary. That salary is too high. And he went for a lower salary. That shocked me, because you'll never find that kind of man in St. Lucia, even today.
Few individuals left as significant a mark on St. Lucia's financial history as George Theophilus. As managing director and later chairman of both the St. Lucia Development Bank and the National Commercial Bank, he played a critical role in shaping the direction of these two pioneering institutions. His leadership bridged the gap between development financing and commercial banking, setting the foundation for their eventual unification.
If you look at the statistics we used to provide at that time, you'll find that our work in the agricultural sector was significant. We gave a lot of loans. Of course, many of them went bad too, because at that time you had some sharp fellows in the don't forget, people assume that the farmers are stupid. They're not stupid at all. They were fellows are wily, many of them. But at the same time, I must say that that was one of the mainstays of the development bank, the agricultural sector. The board of the SLDB was also the board of the National Commercial Bank. So they had a common board. So I was chairman of the board, but you had a lot of people like Michael Chasney, there was Julian Hunt, there was St. Helen, there was John Bascom, who were on the board. So we had a common board, so that the idea was to ensure that you coordinate the activities of the institutions, the development side and the commercial side, so that they don't appear to be in competition with each other. All right. In addition to that, to ensure that this did not happen, we prepared a memorandum of understanding between the commercial bank and the development bank to ensure that they had a modus operandi. They understood what their functions were and how they complemented each other.
Then I also spoke to McDonald Dixon, who again was in a very managerial position at the Royal Bank of Canada. I think he was the deputy manager.
Yeah, and he was the head of the Vieux-Fort branch at the time.
At the time, yes.
Yes.
I spoke to him, we had a conversation, and he seemed to have been interested. Eventually, he expressed his interest, and the board decided to appoint McDonald as the general manager of the bank.
I still remember, must have been about August or September, after the hurricane, being visited one afternoon by the Prime Minister and his assistant. And they said that they wanted me to run, they were setting up this local bank, and they wanted me to run the operations.
What were you doing at the time?
I was manager of the Royal Bank of Canada in Vieux-Fort. Quite happy, running a small branch, and I had my customers, the bank was running profitable. I had a very good relationship with my employer. I didn't have to run or go anywhere. So when Mikey came to me with the idea, I said, look boy, government own a bank, I get in order, I'm not interested. And then in leaving, he made a remark. He said, I hope it's not on your conscience if this bank fails. I never forgot that. I remember calling my wife later in the afternoon because she worked in Castries and I was down in Vieux-Fort. I said, look, Mikey Pilgrim told me this thing and it's really bothering me and I have to sit down and think of it, because if I had an opportunity to run this bank and it was successful, it would be a feather in my cap. But if somebody took it over and it was run down, I would feel bad that I had the opportunity to save it. There is one sensation that comes to mind, elation. And I felt that I was contributing something to the country, to the economy, particularly given the state of the country at the time. St. Lucia was coming out of a situation immediately after a hurricane when the economy was down. There was no export of bananas. The entire banana crop was wiped out in August of of 1980 with Hurricane Allen, no tourism and no manufacturing. And to have started a commercial bank in the January of 1981, it meant that we had to put boots on the road. So we were into the physicalities of things, actually going out to get money to be able to run the bank rather than getting customers to come in. They did come in, and they came in droves, particularly during the first year of operations. The people warmed themselves to the national nature of the bank and being truly St. Lucian, because from top to bottom, the bank was 100% St. Lucian owned by the government of St. Lucia, and the staff was St. Lucian. You can identify it. We spoke Creole, so there was no language barrier.
So tell me what you're holding in your hand there.
That is, God, I have to read it.
It's a CIB. It's a CIB fund.
CIB, Caribbean Association and Indigenous Banks. I started as a secretary of McDonald Dixon, and I just gradually moved into banking. We started with about 5 of us. We went to interview customers out of Castries to explain what the bank was all about, to take their deposits, to bring their deposits to right here up north, or well, it's central to Castries, deposit their money, go back down, and to bring their books back to them. So we did a lot of driving around, and that was my fondest memories. Driving around with Mr. Dixon looking for customers.
My priorities were to make sure that we brought an institution, a financial institution, to the people. Let us go to the great unbanked. We had a great population that really required banking services.
Yes, a lot of people wanted to have an account there at that bank. So I was actually, in the waterfront branch, I had a desk on the floor where people came to me, and I would fill out all the necessary forms, get them the signatures and everything, and then let them go to the tellers to deposit their money.
Prior to the advent of NCB, you had the St. Lucia Cooperative Bank, which was a small bank. And up to the time when we were established, they were not a full-fledged commercial bank. This is something a lot of people don't know. They were a savings and loans association, more or less. You know? So we came on the scene as a full-fledged commercial bank offering all commercial banking services. And we were in competition with the big, very big international banks, you know. And my whole purpose was to establish a presence and to serve the country, serve the people. So we became banker to government, and we became banker to the agricultural sector, which at the time was in need, and we did that through the St. Lucia Banana Growers Association. We became bankers to them. We took over their loans from the foreign banks, much to the chagrin of the foreign banks, because I will not mention names here, but I can tell you one of our biggest problems was the competition. They had the money, they were able to up their interests on fixed deposits, making it more costly to us, you know. So, and they were sending their bad customers to us for loans, you know. So we had to be doubly vigilant, particularly in the first year. But we made a profit in the first year anyway, thanks to them.
McDonald Dixon's leap of faith reminds us of the vision and resolve it takes to build a nation. His leadership remains a cornerstone of St. Lucia's financial success.
BOSL Story, Honorable Emma Hippolyte, Scene 9, Take 1.
I had working with me a very encouraging and supportive team, and that was headed by the then chairperson, Mr. George Theophilus. And I could say up to now, this gentleman shaped my career. The way he mentored us as young persons coming into the institution. We had challenges because you're going in to be an internal auditor, The staff at the bank at the time did not know what it was to have an internal auditor. So they didn't understand the role. They saw you as the enemy from within type of thing. And I can tell you, I got a lot of support and help from then chairman, Mr. George Theophilus. The encouragement was tremendous, the mentoring, the hand-holding. We had at the time the managing director, Mr. McDonald Dixon, was very supportive, very experienced banker. And we had several, when I think of some of the senior persons at the bank at the time, Malcolm Alexander, Helen Daniel Joseph, Idlin Saltibus, Palace Etan, and all those persons were coming in from different banking institutions. So at the NCB at the time, you had experienced bankers, but from different systems. And we had to sort of work together to make it work.
Emma Hippolyte's reflections highlight the sacrifices and dedication of individuals who helped build St. Lucia's financial institutions. From their work at SLDB to their leadership at NCB, these pioneers laid the groundwork for a banking legacy that continues to serve the nation.
In terms of a dynamic, relationship-wise, how did you and McDonald Dixon get along?
As individuals, I don't think we are not very close to each other. We're not very close, but we spoke well with one. You see, when you were here, he was a CEO of the commercial side. I am chairman of the board of the development bank, chairman of his board. Very often you would find us in collision because there are things be doing which we would challenge.
But what would you say was probably the greatest challenge that you faced during your 13-year tenure?
Well, my greatest challenge was working with a board that did not really understand me. Because, first of all, I was a lot much younger, much more agile. I preferred to go out and meet customers and develop the business from outside. And I think that a lot of the focus was placed at that time on prudence and safety and so on. And my interpretation of this was different, and most times at variance with the board.
The creation of the National Commercial Bank and the St. Lucia Development Bank came during a time of transformation and opportunity. A young senator in the St. Lucia Labour Party, Dr. Kenny Anthony, was part of the government navigating these changes. And interestingly, years later, as Prime Minister, he led the historic merger of these two institutions, creating what we know today as the Bank of St. Lucia.
At the time, and we're talking about essentially 1979, at the time I was earmarked to become the Minister of Education. But I don't know how much of that story you know. Basically, I was too young to be appointed as senator because the qualifying age for appointments to the Senate was 30, and at the time I was 28. But the government created a post of special advisor in education and allowed me to sit in cabinet. I really was not a member of the cabinet, but was allowed to participate in cabinet meetings as a special advisor because I guess the Prime Minister had the authority to invite whoever he wanted to attend cabinet meetings. So that I was part of that initial dialogue to begin the process of empowering St. Lucians, to allow them the opportunity to play a part in the economy of St. Lucia, to become actors in the economic development of St. Lucia. And this was the period when it was very popular for the state to invest in the economies of the region. You have to remember that we are coming out of the black nationalist period, where the emphasis was, of course, to return assets to the people of the respective countries. It was felt that an opportunity had been created for the democratization of state assets by allowing persons to begin to share in the assets of the country as a whole. So the government decided to expand the initiative of economic enfranchisement by allowing St. Lucians to own shares. And since the government of St. Lucia was a major shareholder of the National Commercial Bank, we then took the decision to make those shares available to members of the public. So that was the first ideological imperative. It was an opportunity to empower St. Lucians, to allow them to own shares and to be part of the economy of St. Lucia. But there was a more fundamental reason. We wanted the opportunity to position the National Commercial Bank to be a major player in the financial affairs, not just of St. Lucia, but in fact in the wider OECS.
As we close this chapter, Pioneers of Progress, we honor the visionaries whose bold actions laid the foundation for the Bank of St. Lucia. Their pioneering efforts sparked a legacy of growth and transformation. In the next chapter, Echoes of Excellence, we uncover the historic merger that positioned the bank as a driving force of innovation and excellence, and how it has grown to embody first world standards, locally and across the region. The BOSL story continues.
Began at the beginning, honoring the pioneers who laid the foundation.
Being at the bank for 40 years is a very long time, but I've enjoyed every moment of it.
When I came here 35 years ago, I had no plans to remain here that long.
This year, I'm celebrating 30 years with Bank of St. Lucia.
So I joined the bank at the age of 19, and I'm currently the senior manager of the Recoveries and Valuations Department. It's not bad at all, right?
I love to lead my team. And delivering excellent customer service, I believe these are the highlights of my job.
My greatest joy is to know that this institution has gone through so many challenges over the years, and to come out stronger, more resilient, and to know that I am a part of it.
It's a family kind of environment that we've created over the years at the bank, and this really makes the bank an amazing place to work.
These years have been amazing for me, and my BOSL story continues.
We now return to our screens for the second of our three features. And having looked back and celebrated the foundations, we turn our eyes to the merger. It's now time for Pathways to Prosperity.
There was some skepticism. There was some initial resistance.
I never thought about merging cultures. That never crossed my mind.
My role was when they needed to get a guarantor to cause it to happen.
Welcome to Echoes of Excellence, the second chapter of the BOSL story, a journey that reveals how St. Lucia's very own bank, now the largest in the OECS, was born. In our last episode, we honored the pioneering spirit and unyielding resilience of both the founders and the institutions of NCB and SLDB, who laid the cornerstone of our island's financial independence. Today, we enter a groundbreaking era, the merger of these two indigenous icons in a transaction never before attempted in our island and unprecedented in the sub-regional banking industry. Underpinned by a visionary political philosophy and powered by an innovative brain trust, this historic merger unleashed a wave of challenges and excitement, heralding a fresh dawn for St. Lucia. Join us as we unravel this transformative chapter where legacy, ambition, resilience, and bold innovation converge to redefine excellence in banking.
there was some skepticism. There was some initial resistance. There were those technocrats who were totally convinced that you needed a development bank on its own. In other words, they did not support the idea of a merger between the two banks. Of course, they were never complete with the arguments they presented, because a lot of these development banks subsequently folded and other arrangements had to be made for one reason or another. The second thing is this, and it's really very important to bear in mind. Technocrats, like other members of the public, had become accustomed to milking the development bank, because they were able to go to the political directorate when, of course, they needed to push their friends to obtain loans, or for persons to obtain loans because of the political influence that existed at the development bank.
I, Kenny Davis Anthony, do swear.
As Prime Minister at the time, Dr. Kenny Anthony championed the vision that brought BOSL to life. His leadership drove the agenda of enfranchisement, ensuring that national assets remained in the hands of the people. With passion and clarity, he reflects on the merger that transformed the financial landscape of St. Lucia.
To the credit of the then board of directors of the St. Lucia Development Bank, they understood the logic behind the merger, and they were genuinely facilitative. And secondly, I think we had very enterprising management of what was then the National Commercial Bank.
BOSL Story, Maria St. Rose, Scene 8, Take 1.
Kenny Anthony had become Prime Minister and is asking me to be his advisor and to head the National Commercial Bank.
And what did you say to him at that time?
That was the furthest thing from my mind. That was not in my career path at all.
You're like Columbus, man. What's going on behind here? Mario St. Rose's journey is one of strategy and resilience. From navigating the complexities of NCB's privatization to leading the challenging process that culminated in the BOSL merger, he overcame obstacles with determination and foresight. His leadership and expertise were instrumental in creating the super bank we know today.
A friend of mine had written a book, The Problems of Commercial Banking in Developing Countries. Dr. Wilfred Bascom, in fact, he just passed away about 2 weeks ago. And he asked me to review the book. And I found it interesting, fascinating, and challenging. Because I thought commercial banking was, look, you take people's money and that's it. But it's a lot more than that. And I discovered that there. So I said, wait, as usual, God is speaking to me. Okay, it's Lent.
So you put a whole religious divine dimension to this thing.
And one better put the divine dimension to everything, because everything is related. I thought, I consulted, and I must say nobody encouraged me to go, which I found quite interesting.
That was a sign that you should go maybe.
So after about two weeks, I think I gave him the nod. And then he sent his chairman, Victor Idoxi, to interview me.
What you've not said is that you were second in command at the Caribbean Development Bank at the time.
Yes, I was Senior Vice President Operations at the bank. I'd been at the bank from 1975, almost 25 years, actually. So that was the arrangement, but I did request that for salary purposes, because I did hear something about in St. Lucia, people were concerned about, what's his name, the previous managing director, Mr. Hingston, driving a Mercedes-Benz. That's one. And number two, he earned a big salary. So I said, look, I don't want St. Lucia government to pay me. Okay? CDB will continue to pay me the same salary that I got as vice president.
I had been a client of Bank of St. Lucia for a while, and I mean, my relationship with the bank was good. So when they advertised that they were selling shares to local people, the shares was at $5 at the time. I decided that would have been a good investment. I bought shares for myself and also for my children who were minors at the time. And we were getting dividends every year, business was good. And when they advertised their second lot at $12.50, I decided to buy more shares for myself and for my sons.
In 2023, a guy told me about shares at the bank. He actually works for you guys. Yes. So then I got in touch with the investment department at the bank, and a young lady introduced me to the shares. And she explained to me about how the shares work and what to be expected. And that's how I ended up buying some shares.
One of the recommendations that I made was you need to privatize. We had already done that with St. Lucia Electricity, where I was chairman, but we felt that we should do the same with the National Commercial Bank, and it's something that we propose for all the islands, all the Lucille companies, all the national commercial banks. Give the public an interest. Let them be investors in the company.
My role was when they needed to get a guarantor to cause it to happen, because if a percentage of the shares that were issued were not taken, the merger would have failed. We were presented with a contract or an agreement sort of that was preventing us being NIC from purchasing, from anything else. And I had to say no. If I'm going to be taking the funds, if I have to advise my board to support this, I need to have some skin in the game. And I was also, the NIC was also holding the funds of all of St. Lucia. This institution was also, Bank of St. Lucia was also a St. Lucian institution. But we needed to get an arrangement where both of us could have benefited. And I could say between, yes, Dr. Anthony, I could remember, called us to a meeting at the Prime Minister's official residence. And he says, well, we need to sign. And I say, well, I can't sign what I have before me. And then we looked at it. He looked at it. I say, you're a lawyer. Look at it. Look at it. He looked at it. And we arrived at a document that I felt comfortable with, that the NIC could have signed. We presented, we signed, and that was it.
As we continue to reflect on the periods surrounding the merger, it's important to remember that this was also the unification of two distinct corporate cultures, each with their own strengths, values, and professional identities. There were tensions and doubt. The commercial bank brought decades of experience in traditional banking, while the development bank introduced a cadre of highly technical professionals with strong academic and specialist backgrounds. For some, there were feelings of unease, concerns about relevance, job security, differences in approach, and adjusting to unfamiliar terrain.
I never thought about merging cultures. That never crossed my mind. I mean, that's what you want to do, you do it. Okay.
So who was the first person you said that brought this to your mind?
Frankie Leos. Yeah.
So he showed you what was going on.
How are you going to bring these two cultures together? Because they're two different cultures. And he would have been on the commercial bank board and also on the development bank board. Okay? But it's done. We had to do it. We did it. It was challenging. There were threats and whatever, etc., saboteurs, enemies within, and so on. But nothing beats the Lord. God is in your hands. It's in your hands. I mean, people went as far, my secretary and others, they used to say masses for me.
They used to say?
They used to say masses for me. Burn candle, bring holy water.
In the beginning, as with everything else, it was a bit tumultuous. Staff did not really understand what was going on. We had to, obviously, the two teams, that of the National Commercial Bank and that of the St. Lucia Development Bank, we had to learn and understand each other because we were coming from different places.
The development bank staff were more together, more of a family, not competing, supporting each other. Okay, that's number one. And number two, the development bank staff, they had a lot more certification than the commercial bank staff.
Some stories echo across time, and my BOSL story certainly does. Over 2 decades ago, my team was engaged to co-architect the merger communication strategy for ECFH Bank of St. Lucia, working in collaboration with the talented Anna Walcott, daughter of Sir Derek Walcott. Just months earlier, we had completed the rebrand of the National Insurance Corporation, giving us the experience to carve the identity of the newly formed merged institution, of which the NIC was a key player. That journey extended naturally to ECFH's then subsidiary, the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where we also crafted the brand and communication strategy. But my engagement with BOSL goes beyond that. It's deeply personal. I am one of its original shareholders, converting into equity an outstanding balance due to me on the merger contract. So this marks my third evolution, as it were, another chapter of collaboration. And from that early body of work, 24 years, one sweet note still lingers on. The bank's first corporate jingle, its soundtrack, which I had the pleasure of producing.
It's all about you and the many things you need, how you strive to get ahead, how you're going to succeed. All along the way, we're a partner for you. All the way, see it through. We're all the bank you need. We're the Bank of St. Lucia, so bank on your future. We're the Bank of St. Lucia, all the bank you need.
We had to model after a bank in Trinidad who assisted us. We had a strategic relationship with them, and we learned as we went along. So there were governance structures to put in place, how the subsidiary boards interact with the parent company, what type of reporting structure, governance structure. So it was quite a lot, but it was exciting because it was something new. Of course, mistakes were made along the way, but we learned along the way and we grew, in the process, and we became better at what we did.
Esterlita Cumberbatch was one of the merger originals, playing a vital role in integrating the systems of the St. Lucia Development Bank and the National Commercial Bank. Her talent and dedication led to her becoming the institution's first and only corporate secretary, a role she continues to hold with distinction. Notably, women were central to the merger and the bank's evolution, shaping systems, culture, and leadership across every level. In many respects, their contributions are the quiet echoes of excellence that continue to define the institution today.
I left at some point to do my master's in finance, and that was just about the time when SLDB, or just before SLDB and NCB merged as an entity. When I came back from studying, I came smack into it, right? Smack into the merged entity, and I think it was quite appropriate because from then on, we just picked up the organization. The ECFH got involved in so many things, and all of them needed that level of financial analysis, and I think I was quite prepared at the time to deal with that.
My role was to support, I think it was Jeff Swanson who was there at the time, as his assistant project manager. I'd never managed any project before, but I like new challenges. I'm always one for a new challenge, and I came to understand that there has to be a process of change, especially when you're dealing with different cultures. And trying to bring those two cultures together was very important. And I think the critical thing at the time for us was merging the technologies and ensuring that whatever software we had in place could have absorbed the type of loans that the SLDB did, because that's mostly what they did. But I would say that, and it actually acted as a catalyst for me for the future.
As a woman, you have to work twice as hard in a senior level position. One, to get there in the first place, and secondly, when you're there, it's a lot more, everyone is watching you, you know, because women tend to have to prove themselves a lot more than men. You're not in the guys' club. We were coming from a period where there were some issues in the organization, and so unfortunately for me, I ended up being head of the organization in the middle of those issues. Yeah, we had changes at the governance level, and to some extent the board, I think, because we had those issues before I was MD, the board was a little more stringent in the sense that they like on overlooking on your shoulder all the time, whereas I would say my predecessor did not have that.
ICC World 2020 Cricket is coming to the Caribbean.
Now, what occurred here in St. Lucia, to some extent, was really because the bank had perhaps overstretched its resources during that period of buoyancy that we spoke about, especially following the World Cup in 2006 and so on, because this was a period of amazing expansion in the economy of St. Lucia. I mean, this is a period when the bank was lending to investors, particularly to ordinary St. Lucians. A lot of St. Lucians approached the bank for financing to renovate their homes, to expand their homes, to be part of this new Airbnb investment, and to encourage engagement in the tourism sector. But the problem was that the bank may have been too generous to some borrowers, and some of those loans got into major difficulty.
Your company is now bankrupt. Our economy is in a state of crisis. Did you mislead your investors? And I remind you, sir, you're under oath. In your testimony.
In the case of St. Lucia, the crisis hit us directly. And it unfolded when it became apparent that the Bank of St. Lucia would have recorded major losses. Once it became known that it would record major losses, then panic set in.
When Robert Nostrom succeeded Mario St. Rose as managing director of ECFH, he inherited an institution poised for growth and transformation. His tenure brought unprecedented profits and innovation, solidifying the holding company and its key subsidiary, Bank of St. Lucia, as financial leaders. However, his departure coincided with one of the bank's most difficult periods, as looming losses began to unfold, leaving behind a legacy of extraordinary accomplishments and profound challenges.
He did his contribution. He had a way with staff. He had a way with people. He knew his banking. There's no doubt about that. He knew his banking. But maybe he was a little too ambitious.
And I looked at these boards sometimes and I said, if these people had owned these banks, some of these board directors, they would see to it that not only the directors get paid, but the directors would be asked to make sure they perform in order to get remuneration for the owners. They would never allow their investments to be just there with the board of directors being paid and the owners are not getting a cent from the bank at that time.
Even before we get to the shareholders meetings, shareholders would call and ask, you know, are you all paying a dividend? And you have to explain to them how dividends are paid, because some shareholders of the view that your shares pay you interest like a savings account, and is not. So you have to explain to them that dividends are paid based on profitability, and unfortunately you are making losses and you're unable to pay a dividend. And of course you will hear all the negative comments. And I mean, for me personally, I felt that, you know, I would have been the happiest that day when we could have paid a dividend. And of course, when we went to the shareholders meetings, you know, shareholders demanded accountability. What are you all doing or not doing well? Are you all competent enough to turn this around?
The World Bank and the IMF came to solution. They were on our backs. They exerted extraordinary pressure, and they felt that the time had come for the state to divest itself of the Bank of St. Lucia completely and to sell the Bank of St. Lucia, because they did not think that the Bank of St. Lucia would have survived. The truth of the matter was, a lot of credit has to be given to Sir Dwight Venner. The thinking of the IMF and the World Bank was that once the extent of the losses became public at the meeting of the shareholders of the bank, then there would have been a collapse. There would have been a run on the bank. So Dwight had a lot of difficulty explaining to the IMF and to the World Bank that this is not typical of the behavior of West Indians, and they're unlikely to do so, but it was also necessary that we took some urgent steps. Obviously, we had to set up a special mechanism to deal with the issue of the bank, and we had to save the bank, and Sir Dwight and the government of St. Lucia was on the same page, that we had to save the Bank of St. Lucia at all costs.
The late Sir Dwight Venner, the longest-serving governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, is the unsung hero in this story. His aspiration was to create a super indigenous OECS bank, a formidable force capable of withstanding the shocks of the global financial climate while standing strong against regional and international powerhouses. Though that dream remains currently unrealized, it inspired transformative mergers like this one, paving the way for a more resilient financial future. His legacy of stability and foresight endures.
I credit, as I said, Sir Dwight Venner a lot. While some know, for example, I did have a lot of policy differences with Sir Dwight, particularly with regard to the role of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. But there is no question that his leadership and his thinking in that period was very helpful to the survival of the bank. So we had to work very closely with the management of the bank in this period, and thankfully we averted a disaster. So the meeting of shareholders took place. Obviously it was a little heated. There were those who were nervous, who were worried, who spoke loudly against the policies of the bank. But we were able to calm the fears. And that is how we saved the Bank of St. Lucia.
The lessons learned would be proper risk assessments, because the losses were largely attributed to loan provisioning, where loans were poorly underwritten and not sufficient collateral to support the loans. So you find that when the loans go bad, you could not monetize sufficiently the collateral that was underlying the loans. So definitely we learned to be much more prudent in our provisioning as well as in underwriting, ensuring that we have sufficient collateral to support any loans that are given, and that loans are properly assessed before we on lend.
You are the reason we do
We grew, we were very, very resilient. We pulled together, we band together, and we came out of that time. And here we are today in terms of we're now the largest bank within the ECCU. We have all this technological advancement, marketing. We are now everywhere. So clearly we have the resilience with the leadership of Mr. Phillips at this point in time, who really rallied staff and management to really push through.
The first year and a half of my engagement with Bank of St. Lucia was, in fact, during COVID, which presented hindrances but lots of opportunity, because it gave us a chance to sit back and look at the organization. Albeit we were dealing with customer service challenges at the time, there was not a lot of movement around the island in the same way that it would be, so it gave a lot more time to look at the organization. And I would say one of the most critical things that I've been able to impact first and foremost is the stability of the bank's infrastructure, and the level of collaboration that we now have with the teams of people running business units.
As the Bank of St. Lucia turned a defining corner, Rolf Phillips stepped into leadership as managing director, bringing renewed purpose, stability, and momentum. His vision is shaping a future of lasting progress and prosperity. The BOSL story is now set for its most defining moment. In our final chapter, Pathways to Prosperity, we will unveil the next phase of a journey of transformation, empowerment, and boundless opportunities. We look forward to you joining us for this final chapter. The BOSL story continues to unfold.
I started at a bank 32 years ago as a telephone operator. Can you believe that? I've worked at all the Bank of St. Lucia branches, so I do understand the culture.
I'm a proud product of the bank's internship program, which has led to my current position as branch manager assigned to the Grosley branch.
One thing I know for sure, that this organization promotes women empowerment and growth, and it's evidenced by the key positions that women hold. Young persons who came in to the organization that I mentored and taught and coached, and they have now become senior officers.
Martina is not just a mentor, but she also serves as a mother figure, because she has molded me into the individual that I am today. In the same way that Martina has served as a mentor to me throughout my career, I would love to do the same for others throughout the BOSL journey.
Also, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming our great man of mystery, the Prime Minister himself, the Honorable Philip J. Pierre. Round of applause for the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, thank you for gracing us with your presence. I know you've had a grueling week. Thank you very much. Now let's add some perspective, shall we, from the voices who lived key chapters of this epic BOSL story. We have assembled two panels to add extra dimension to these stories. Our first panel is with us, so it's going to be my pleasure to introduce them. As you would have seen on the program, we now move into this first panel discussion, an opportunity to add context to what we've just seen and to hear directly from them, their voices, those who helped shape this chapter. His credentials are too numerous to mention. Former Prime Minister, he has not one but two PhDs, served as Chief Accountant at Lucelec, and even after public life remained active in several business ventures. I also understand he does long power walks every morning while most of us are still asleep, and I understand that he even chose to walk from the north to this venue this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Mikey Pilgrim. This lady has held prominent institutional roles, including internal auditor at NCB, Auditor General, NIC Director, and a BOSL board member. And most importantly, she is a 3-time parliamentarian and our current Minister of Equity, Labor, Gender, Elderly Affairs, Social Justice, and Consumer Welfare. I didn't even breathe in between that. Yes. And for her international chapter, she also worked with the UN FAO in Rome. She's fervently Catholic, which explains why Rome came with a few Vatican visits. I present the Honorable Emma Hippolyte. Our next panelist is a man of many talents: banker, poet, playwright, trade consultant, florist. That's on you, by the way. And a consultant, vocal presence at BOSL AGMs over the years. He'll also tell you he's had moments with banking. Once a little disgruntled, even flirted with leaving the industry, but somehow the industry pulled him right back in with restored faith and plenty perspective to share. Ladies and gentlemen, McDonald Dixon. Our final panelist is history making, part of the BOSL C-suite, the first and only corporate secretary of BOSL, and also its internal counsel. She also worked at NCB, so she's been close to this story from the early chapters through the merger years. And one exceptional corporate secretary talent that she holds is that she holds the secrets for the board and will take it all the way to her grave. Ladies and gentlemen, Estelita Cumberbatch. So we have seen what has unfurled so far. So, Mikey, I'll start with you. What do you feel at this time, having seen how the story has essentially unpacked itself, and we're celebrating independence? So how would you cap all of that off, even not just for your career, but in terms of the progress of the country?
Well, I must say, hello?
Yes, if you put the microphone a little closer as well, that would help.
Yes, I must say that I'm very impressed with the story, and as a matter of interest, I feel that the bank has done very well from its embryonic stage. It started as a small bank, National Commercial Bank of St. Lucia, and it grew in stride. Although the bank had some difficulties along the way, but with good leadership, I think the bank was strong enough to continue, and it had the support of the St. Lucian public. The customers were good customers, although, as was hinted, there were some delinquencies along the way. But in the end, I think the bank, with the assistance of the government and the NIC, were able to brave all the storms and the bad weather, and consequently, today I must say I'm very happy that the bank is now in good standing and is the biggest bank in the OECS.
Yes, thank you. I want to take us back a little bit. The Prime Minister at the time was the Honorable Anna Louisi, correct?
Yes, that's true.
So he was the one who would have approached you to do this. But there is a name that seems to be perpetual in this story, and that is Hilford de Turville. Tell us a little bit about that dynamic very briefly.
Well, Hilford de Turville was a very amazing man. He was frank, outspoken, and spoke with clarity. Anything he says, you could never misunderstand him. I remember Hilford one day was walking on St. Louis Street next to the Crusader, and he stopped me, said, "Mikey, come to me." We had a good chat, and he says that George Odlum wants him to be the candidate for the Northeast Castries constituency. But Mikey, honestly, I'm not ready for that. So I said to Hilford, I can win that seat anytime. Of course, I was joking at the time. And then what he did, he brought me across the road to Brother George Odlum and told George, Mikey is the man for that seat, I'll endorse him. At that point, George was in the office preparing the manifesto because there was a pending election. And the first thing Hilliford said was, we must form a bank, a solution bank. So then George said, that's a good idea. And we sat together, and George decided to put that in the manifesto. So we went into an election with the idea that if the Labour Party won the election, the first thing they would endeavor to do was to create a solution bank. And Hilliford identified me, whether I won my seat or not, as the person to execute his dream. I must say that Hilliford Tuville was one of my mentors. I believed in him, and since we won that election, the Labour Party won 12 seats to the opposition 5. At the time, I was the chief accountant at Lucidec, and Alan Lucy told me, Mikey, I want you to resign from the job and come over. I told him I'm under contract, and I don't want to breach the contract, but I'll come eventually. He says to me, I want you now. I met Hilliford Tuville. Hilliford Tuville told me, Mikey, leave that job, man. Get out of it. So I left the job. Now, I could afford to do that at the time because I live at my parents' home.
How old were you then?
I had no debt. In the early 30s.
Oh boy, they still do that today, by the way.
I had no commitments, I had no debt. So I was free like a bird in the tree. I could have done anything. So I resigned from the job. But the good thing about it, when I resigned, Alan Lewis, the Prime Minister, told me, like, don't worry, under your contract, they must, even if you resign, they must pay you all the benefits. So Lucidec continued to pay me my salary every month, although I was a Minister of Government. But that was one of the conditions of the contract. So I was a bit lucky from that point of view.
Kami just said that won't happen now. Kami is the corporate comms manager. She says that won't happen now, by the way. Just one quick question. This is a very interesting... Yes, go ahead, sorry.
So when I became a minister of state, they called it at the time, in the Prime Minister's office, Hilliford called me and told me, Mikey, don't forget, we have to form this bank. And you won't believe that almost every month, Hilliford was calling me, remind me of this bank. And eventually, we decided to form the bank.
Just 1 second. I just wanted to, something just came to mind. I just realized that present with us this morning are 3 prime ministers. Honorable Mikey Pilgrim, Honorable Stephenson King, and our current Prime Minister, Honorable Philip J.P. I think that this is a moment for celebration as well. There's another very interesting, well, not a fun fact, but a fact. I mean, growing up, you know, I'm past the 50-year mark, so I would have grown up in my earlier productive years under a United Workers' Party, John Compton administration. That's what I would have grown into. So I would not have known, and neither did I believe subsequent St. Lucia Labour Party administrations make it abundantly clear to everyone that both the NCB and the SLDB were creatures of the St. Lucia Labour Party administrations. This is something that seems to have been the best kept secret, as well as the Bank of St. Lucia, the merger, also under that administration. This is not a political issue, this is a fact, and facts should not be revised. They are what they are, and this I think is something that goes on even for our young. We have some students here with us as well from South Louis Community College, so I really would like to recognize them for being here with us for this momentous occasion as well. And this is a part of history for you. I'd like to move, if you don't mind, to McDonald Dixon, the long-suffering managing director of NCB, with his healthy tension with his board at the time. McDonald, we know that this has been a very interesting journey for you. You're a man who carries his passion and his emotions on his shoulder. You spoke about having really lost your faith in the banking industry for a while. Do you mind sharing why you had thought that way? I mean, I know that you're back in the graces of the industry. You're at every AGM. You're very vocal. Your voice is listened to. You're part of the brain trust. But what would have made you become so disenchanted with the industry?
There are certain things I reserve for my priest at confession. Suffice it to say that in every fledgling organization, there are going to be differences. You have a board who are people from the society, varying disciplines. We have people who are qualified in administration, some in public administration, some in economics, and so on, but no bankers, except for one, Mr. Bascom, who was a commercial banker. And here I came, trained in commercial banking session. My qualifications are in finance and foreign trade, so I'm also conversant with international trade. And here am I, coming into a bank, from a foreign bank, with its rules and its order, finding that I'm the one to write the rule book, I am the one to follow the system, and I'm the one to also get that system approved. And there would logically be differences. I don't think that they were ever personal. They were professional. I mean, my chairman and I had many a tussle that you think that we would have put on gloves at some time, but we never got vexed with each other. That's the irony of it all, you know. And up to now, when I publish a book, one of the first people who get an autograph copy is George Lee, and we're the best of buddies. You know, and he'll tell you the same thing about me. He'll tell you we've never been friends, we've never been enemies either.
Let me just, Rolf, how's that working out for you with Everest? I just wanted to. There seems, I don't find you're sitting very close to each other there. Maybe there's some truth to that story. But yes, go on, please, McDonald.
Well, that's it.
Well, so you spoke also about these early years of like getting into your car and driving to the out districts to take people's money from them and then to deposit it. I mean, what was that like? That's like really...
Let me set the stage here.
Okay, please.
The bank was opened in January 1981. We had Hurricane Allen, August 1980. The economy was zilch. There was no tourism, no manufacturing, no agriculture, okay? And here is a local bank, commercial bank, setting up for business. Government could only afford to put $1 million into a bank. And even in 1981, $1 million, just a few loans, 10 loans and they're gone, right? We have staff to pay. So, what do? I gathered the senior people, my lieutenant. I want to mention here especially Curtis Hyacinth, alias Kobo, who literally owned the Soufriere district. For some reason or other, people welcome him, as Walcott would say, like a country wayside street. They opened their doors to him, okay? And there was Andy Lake, there was Brian John, okay, among the others. There was Cheryl Skeet, among the ladies. There was Evelyn Saltibus. There was Malcolm Alexander, Mrs. Greenwich, and a few names, Olive. You know. Some had to stay in the office. Alexander's job was to run the fort. Don't get involved. We're going to get out. We're going to go out and get the dollars. So we would pick certain days, non-banana growing days, non-banana selling days, because we sold bananas by that time every week. So it would have to be maybe Fridays and Wednesdays, if my memory serves me right. We'd jump in the car, maybe 4 of us. We never went in twos, so it would be a team of about 4. We'd decide we'd hit Doriso this Wednesday. We'd hit Vieux Fort. Now, mind you, Vieux Fort was already being served by Barclays Bank. And there was a branch of the cooperative bank there, so we were poaching. Soufriere, on the other hand, was being served by Barclays Bank, so we were also poaching. And we would go down, we'd target customers, we'd call them and let them know we're coming. And we wouldn't just ask for money, we'd tell them what the bank's aims and objectives were. And our aims and objectives are very simple. Let us go out there and target the greater unbanked. So one day we just took Jeremy Street by storm and took every account on Jeremy Street. So we had commercial business. But after the first 2 years of operation of the bank, we had no high net worth individual, and we were making a profit.
It's amazing. Okay. Congratulations. Congratulations. Just a second. So boots on the ground, door-to-door evangelism. You certainly be the Jehovah's Witnesses to that one for sure. You knew how to knock on doors and to bring in the sheaves. Honorable Emma Hippolyte. Let's talk a little bit about. We know that you were internal audit, but I'd like to jump a few years. You received a phone call from Dr. Kenny Anthony. You were in Italy at the time. Just tell us about your coming back into the country to take over from to become the head of the National Insurance Scheme at the time.
Yes, you are correct. I was in Rome 1995 to 1998, and during that time I got a phone call from Dr. Anthony. But the call was for me to be part of a team that was going to review the operations of the government, because the government, the Central Labour Party government, had won the election, and Dr. Anthony and the cabinet had put a team together to review team members from other regional bodies. So I was called in, I joined that team, and we did that review. And I returned to Rome. But before I left for Rome, I remembered very clearly making a pact with my mom that I was not going to stay. But within that time, my contract was already renewed within the system in Rome. But I needed to get back to keep my word to my mother. And I had to get and start looking for a job in St. Lucia if I was going to leave Rome. And there were 2 jobs being advertised in St. Lucia. One was with the NIC, and the other was with SLASPA. And I felt that I was more qualified to do the NIC job because in Rome, I sat on the pension plan representing the Director General. So I applied to the NIC to be the director. I came down. I came down at my own expense. I did the interview, and I was offered the job. I was offered the job, and I asked for time to go back to close my relationship with FAO. I was given 3 months. I asked for all the files and reports that I could get. I went back to Rome with all the reports. So I prepared for that. I came back 3 months later, and then I joined the National Insurance as the director.
And then you get thrown shortly thereafter into this merger business.
Later on.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about how that first meeting looked like to you.
Well, we being the NIC was invited to a meeting with the managing director at the time, Mr. St. Rose, and his team. And the proposal was for the NIC to provide guarantors for the purchase of shares in case the initial IPO was not successful. Understanding the role of the national insurance in national development, and also understanding the role of the bank at the time in the development of St. Lucia, it was something that we supported. I felt that I could make this recommendation to my board. But we had a difference. The difference was that Bank of St. Lucia, at the time the legal officer was Norman Francis. The document that was presented to us, when I looked at it, I felt it was one-sided. it was saying that the NIC had to agree to do this guarantor, serve as guarantor to purchase those shares, but it was saying that the NIC could not invest in the bank itself, nor could the NIC hold the shares as security. Say, for example, if one of the business owners were owing the NIC could not accept the shares of the bank as security or collateral for that. And I felt that that was not fair to us. So we went backward and forward. Then I had a call from Dr. Anthony to a meeting at the Prime Minister's official residence. And he asked me to sign the document, and I said, Dr. Anthony, in all fairness, I don't think I can sign this document. And I remember he told me, are you aware that I can instruct you to sign this document?
Were you there at the time?
and I told him, I am aware that you can, but you will not. I said, you are a lawyer, take some time, read this document. And in all fairness, he asked us to leave the room, and he read the document. And then, as a wise man as he was, he then called Mrs. St. Rose and Norman and said, you need to amend this document.
And the rest is history.
He amended, yes, and I signed the document.
Right. A notable and noticeable absence from our panel this morning is Mr. George Theophilus. As you know, he's growing up in years. And I think that we were very fortunate to have been able to have caught him on tape at the time, and even more fortunate to have also had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Marius St. Rose. Because just a few months later, he passed. He's a man of blessed memory, someone that I had a lot of time for and a great amount of respect, and that is why I segue to Estelita, who would have been there at the very brunt of his entrance into the institution. What was it like working with Mrs. St. Rose, Estelita?
It was quite interesting in that he came from CDB, which was a development bank. So he had no commercial banking experience, as you would have heard in the piece earlier. So, you know, but he was a very humble person, and he never pretended. So he said, I do not know commercial banking. How do you do this, you know? And so, but what he did was the information you provided him, he would think about it and then come back with strategies to make it better. And I think it's always good when you have somebody coming from outside with just fresh knowledge that he would look at it, internalize it, and say, maybe we can do this. What do you think of this? And I think he looked at it from a strategic point of view. So he led the bank, gaining knowledge of commercial banking and looking at it and strategizing how can he make it better. So a simple example, things like surplus funds. The National Commercial Bank at the time, and I was in the finance department, we never did investing. So he would say, all those balances you all have at the correspondent banks, can you invest it? And he looked at that and started investing surplus funds, and then we started developing an investment portfolio. So I think he brought a breath of fresh air, looking at how you can better things. And of course, on the heels of that came the IPO and later the merger. So his tenure was marked with a lot of important strategic decisions that changed the trajectory of the bank.
You're the first corporate secretary, the only corporate secretary, a female, so definitely that will go down in the annals of history as a first. How does that make you feel as a St. Lucian, as a woman, as someone who probably did not see that in your career?
Yeah, I think, of course, it was an honor. At the time, it was a little intimidating. I had just finished an LLB, and there was the formation at the merger, formation of different subsidiaries. And Norman Francis, who was there at the time, formed his own company. So Mr. St. Rose, you know, people applying for jobs at the time of the merger applied for another job.
And then he approached me and offered me the job, and I was like, oh my God, I know nothing about that. And he said, "Oh, or you'll be okay." And I, of course, had to learn. I went to do a chartered secretary's course. I did certain things to equip me with the skills. But it was intimidating, especially going to the boardroom. And, my first board meeting was like, could you sit here? I had no clue what I was doing. But I had to learn fast. I had to learn on my feet. And it was also a period of learning for the entire organization, because we were going through that period of change where a number of subsidiaries were established that had never been done before. And even when I call colleagues within the OECS, nobody had that type of structure. So the closest we got to it was at Republic Bank in Trinidad, where, sometimes you call and you discuss certain things, seek guidance. But it was a learning experience, but it certainly was an honor, because it had me trying to learn and do things that I did not know. And I think you feel that sense of accomplishment, having to go through and just start from scratch and do things, that you will feel proud about.
And I heard that your prayer life and faith in God strengthened quite a bit between 2008 and 2013 there. What was that like, walking into that boardroom, walking into these annual general meetings, knowing that the bank seemed to have been on the brink of collapse?
Yeah, well, it even started before any shareholders meeting or boardroom. For some reason, of course, shareholders see me and they see shares. So you meet them in the supermarket, you meet them on the street, and they'll ask you, well, how are things doing? I remember one New Year's Day, after church, a particular shareholder, who is even here this morning, said to me, how are we looking this year? I said, well, it's just New Year's. The year ended yesterday, But, I think they felt that sense of comfort. So when they see you, they ask you. Because, you have to understand it's an investment. And although there wasn't sufficient education, people thought it was automatic. Every year you would get a dividend. Every year, like interest, you'll be paid. So I think I empathize with some, because I've had so many sad stories. Some people have medical bills, they're waiting on the dividend. A lot of retirees invested. And so you have to empathize with them. You understand, but at the same time, you have to explain that dividends are paid based on profitability. If we do not make a profit, unfortunately, we cannot pay. And so as hard as it was, you have to let them know that is how it works. But you also have to give hope that, this is not going to be for a long time. I often reference what was happening in the international market, because, of course, you had bank failures internationally. You had a lot of companies going under. And I used to say, if the mighty US, those companies have gone under. We are struggling, but we will get better, because you also have to give hope. And I think, by doing that, being honest and true, you empathize, because, of course, people have invested for a return. But I think, it's giving that hope that we will do better. We are working to get there. Of course, there were doubts. A particular shareholder said, you all can't buck a trend. Why don't you all change the board? Sometimes it was humiliating. It felt insulting. But, you can't fall down and die. So you have to continue working, to change that. And this is what we've done. And I'm very proud that, we have gotten where we are today.
Right. With no personal interest in this question, how soon can one expect the next dividend? No personal interest in this particular... Seeing that you're very profitable now, I'm just saying.
Yeah, as is customary over the past 3 years, we normally have our AGM in May. And in June, we normally pay dividends. So you can expect it.
So you can't have an earlier AGM at all. That's not just kidding. Thank you very much. Round of applause to our panel for the time that they've spent. If my team would show the panel down as we move into the next phase. We now return. Well, first of all, we want to thank our panel. And these are individuals who have definitely made a valuable contribution to the institution and to national development as well. At this time, we'll return to the screen for the final of our 3 features. This chapter honors what has been built and celebrates excellence as the standard we carry forward. Ladies and gentlemen, Pathways to Prosperity.
Across time and testimony, we have followed the story of a bank built with purpose. Pioneers of progress traced the foundations laid by the two institutions that came before. Echoes of excellence captured the quiet strength and steady hands that carried Banco St. Lucia through the journey of merger and transformation. Now, in this third and final installment, we arrive at the turning point where legacy meets urgency and where a new generation steps forward to reimagine what a bank can be. This chapter is about people, those leading the change and those whose lives are being reshaped by it. This is Pathways to Prosperity.
Big part of my role was helping people to see that there is a future out there for this bank that is better than where we are now.
He has come in and just shaken up the place, and I love that because the culture needed a change. We needed a fresh breath.
I didn't quite know exactly how we'll get there, but I knew there were important things for me to work on immediately.
We see him as a leader, someone who is not afraid to, one, make mistakes, and also not afraid to push you to the limit.
Strong leadership creates an environment where people push beyond what they thought possible. And when people think about Managing Director Rolf Phillips, they speak of that challenge, the drive to do better, to think bigger, to commit to excellence. It's a leadership style that has left its mark on the entire institution. And that kind of impact isn't accidental, it's intentional. Let's take a closer look at the culture shift that has redefined BOSL.
We recognize the need to challenge ourselves to develop a mission vision that will galvanize our people, something that they can see. It's not just about the bank, but it belongs to them, and it shows what the bank wants to be for our employees, our customers, and our staff, and our publics, going forward in terms of the communities that we support. So we decided to do this a bit different. We wanted a much more broad-based involvement in the development of this mission vision. So we took the risk and brought a number of senior managers and key staff in, working with the board of directors and a consultant, and spent a couple of days, getting into the trenches and really digging into what we wanted to be inspired by, going forward. And in that process, this mission was born that we empower people to succeed in every area of their lives. And every time I say it, I can get goosebumps about it, because it is a powerful statement. It's a powerful commitment.
Transformation requires more than vision. It calls for stability, foresight, and the discipline to manage risk while moving decisively forward. Few embody this balance more clearly than the chairman of the board himself, Evariste Jamari. With deep financial expertise and a steady hand, he has been a guiding force in ensuring that as Banco St. Lucia evolves, it does so with strength, prudence, and purpose. His perspective offers an essential lens on the bank's strategic path forward.
BOSL Story, Evariste Jamari. Scene 3, take 1.
One of the important things was to recognize the fact that we are a major financial institutions in the country, and that we were more than just a bank. We were also in a position where we could leverage that position to improve the overall development of the bank. So while we're involved in, yes, providing financial services for consumers, we felt we had an additional responsibility in terms of shaping our country and impacting our country in a positive way. So it went beyond just providing the services. And that meant that we need to pay attention to what government was doing to ensure that what we were doing was aligned to what government policies were, and to ensure that government policies in many ways were in line with what we were doing.
Transformation is never a solo act. It takes a team, a structure, and a strategy built to withstand challenges and seize opportunity. That's exactly what has taken shape at BOSL. From infrastructure upgrades to digital innovation, every move has been deliberate, strengthening the bank from inside out. But what does that look like in action? Let's take a closer look at the initiatives driving this transformation forward.
Yes, and it's true because we see the large number of customers.
The digital branch will or is growing. We want to share basically the piece of the pie. Majority of the customers will move to digital because the convenience is important. They will not want to come into the bank, but the customers will still want this personal touch. So there will still be traffic in the branches. So it's going to be something that's shared across the organization.
We are doing a pilot project at the Grizzly branch where we have a 24 kVA system where we'd like to install at that branch along with the EV ports where electrical vehicles could get charged. As you know, there's the big thrust on going green, so Bank of St. Lucia would love to take the lead in ensuring that we provide, of course, our customers with that facility where they could come to our branch and have their vehicles charged.
For the department, there's a lot ahead. We want to continue to help not just Bank of St. Lucia in ensuring that we give our customers products that would keep them having the funds they need and not having to deliver line even if they do not have a regular account with us. So pretty soon you will hear of another product that I'm sure it will be a aha and a welcome product, not just for the average person, but for the construction company who wants to pay their workers, for government, for those persons who just want to give their child that little bit of be responsible, have your own card.
On the horizon, we have systems we plan on implementing that will digitalize processes. So a customer, for instance, will be empowered to check their loan balances online. They will be able to interact or chat with an agent via online means. The need for coming to the bank will be, I will not say non-existent, but it will be something optional if you want to.
Initiatives that we currently utilize to drive performance within the organization would be the Bank of St. Lucia University, which is geared at the training and development of staff to meet the strategic needs of the organization. We've also implemented a reward and recognition program which seeks to reinforce the desired behaviors and performance of our team.
Our vision for the department, Investment Banking Services, is to democratize investments in St. Lucia and the outside, and by the extension, the ECCU. We need to work on educating the general public that investment is not just for the well-to-dos, the rich man. It's also for every single one of us. So this is a mission that we have, Investment Banking Services, to spread our tentacles far and wide across the width and breadth of St. Lucia.
The bank has always innovated, and a core characteristic of Bank of St. Lucia has always been continuous growth and innovation. And I think the fund represents a change in tone for the bank, coming from that period where we were more focused on surviving, and you could have seen it in our mission and vision. Our bank, strong, secure, profitable. Well, we are profitable now. We are strong, we are secure. And the fund represents a switch in the tone in that we are now looking to explore and expand into new spaces and new business lines, and we want to take the public along with us, take our staff along with us.
What the future looks like for us is that we can, in fact, play a significant role in development without necessarily taking on the huge risk that we did back then. And one mechanism is syndications, whereby we can certainly lead on major development initiatives through project financing by inviting other institutions to lend with us in a syndication arrangement, whereby the risk is shared and we will still be able to deliver to the national development imperatives.
I could see a very bright future ahead for the bank. We have the asset to support it. We have the customer support to support it. We have the systems. I could tell our share price is way undervalued. I could see the share price increasing many times over. I think it's one of the best places to work, and I think that customers should continue to have the confidence in the bank because we're only growing better, bigger and stronger.
Planning is always one of the major things. Our strategic plan, we do a 3-year cycle, but every year we review it because for us it is not about a 1-year profitability, but sustained profitability. So you look at your core business and to see how do you strategize to maintain your positioning in the market.
People make statements that a lot more has been done than has been done for a long time. But despite that, disagreements happen. The more open we make the environment in terms of people's comfort around raising their concerns or putting their thinking into where the bank is going and feeling that they can question it, the more likely it is for us to have situations where we have disagreements. And I believe that it is a part of the process, that ultimately the only way to get the best out of our employees is to have an environment where they feel they can protest and they can raise issues with management, and they can question management about how we are running the bank.
We have a healthy tension in the board where I would like to believe that board members feel comfortable to express disapproval on anything that's before them. And perhaps most important is the fact that I do not get involved, nor do I encourage board members to get involved in operational matters. So the management has full control over operational matters, and at no time would you, as chair, would I be involved in any way in operational matters of the bank. And I respect the MD's position. My position and that of the board is one of policy and nothing more than that.
A lot of managing risk is about having good knowledge of what we do as a bank and having that knowledge shared consistently and available to all of our staff. So we've invested in developing operational manuals across the bank which didn't exist before. We're doing the last big push to implement a full operations manual for the bank. We've done areas like credit and corporate banking and investment banking.
I am very excited, I keep saying that to the management and the employees, about the future of this bank. Already we are the biggest financial institution in the Eastern Caribbean Union, and that's not an accident. The last 2 years we have seen this organization grown in leaps and bounds. I mean, in 2022 I think we had about $14 million. In 2023 we were doing $70 million in profits. And 2024 it's likely to go up again. I think the future looks rather bright for us. And like I said, I think where the difference is going to be is in terms of how we develop our people in the bank.
Over the years, the story of Bank of St. Lucia has been written not only by those within its walls, but also by clients, collaborators, and leaders across every sector of the economy. Their experiences speak to partnership, trust, and a shared commitment to national development. These are the voices of those who continue to build alongside the bank.
I am so proud of Bank of St. Lucia, knowing that, yes, we are one of the stronger economies in the OECS, and our indigenous bank has been able to rise to the occasion and expand and also get the best people in the best positions to take it to the next level.
I have dealt primarily with the bank, BOSL. I have relationships with other banks, but the reason why I've stayed with them because I view them as number one. When it comes to customer service, if I can compare them with some of the others that I deal locally, they far exceed in terms of excellence when it comes to responding to customers.
The last time when we negotiated our interest rate, my son Sanovnik was there, and honestly, I was even a little bit embarrassed because he was not letting up. That is what we wanted, and this is how we wanted it. We wanted to make sure that we were able to pay, and we couldn't pay. But as a local, I must say that they have given us a good rate, and we have paid all through COVID. Whatever it is that they ask us for, we abide. I think BOSL is our bank, and I'm bringing people to you all too. I have told people about BOSL, and I said they're understanding. You can call them anytime, any day. They're always there to listen.
Momentum is a powerful thing. Once it takes hold, it fuels confidence, accelerates progress, and transforms belief into reality. And that's exactly where BOSL stands today. The foundation has been set, the trajectory is clear, and what was once just an idea is now a tangible path forward. As we step into this next phase, we reflect on what it took to get here and where the journey leads next.
Well, I would certainly point out to them the need to ensure that you have a common vision at the top. And I noticed that they have been making profits for some time now. All right. So that tells me that we need to ensure that this focus of nationalism, which underlay the establishment of institutions, is not entirely forgotten and given up. It should always be there.
There will be a generation of solutions who can't adjust to these changes, especially the elderly who are accustomed of dealing with the banks in a very different way from this younger generation. But it does mean that we need to continue to make those changes, to modernize the services that we offer.
If our focus is on wealth creation, okay, and we don't have character, honesty, just follow the biblical principles. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Have empathy, okay? Don't let greed absorb us. Okay. We're not going anywhere. And it's not making us happier. It's not making us happier. The little man at Mopo, going to his garden and so on, must be happier than we are.
Financially, they are going in the right direction. I'm pleased with that, and let us see how best all of St. Lucia can support them.
I'm very proud of the bank. I'm a shareholder actually in the bank, a very small shareholder. But I, of course, I agonized during the period when they were down, but they've now shown the capacity to be able to recover. So what I would say to them is to steer an even course, be prudent, and let us learn from the mistakes of the past and build on them to a greater and brighter future.
And I believe the young generation now have more opportunities, more scope, and more exposure of technology, etc., to be able to do a better job than we have done in our day. So I want the young people to look at that as a model, to see an idea can develop into something big, almost as a miracle, because an idea, once you conceive it and you believe in it, you can achieve it.
There's a saying I think that I've heard many times in my career is that if you inherit a situation where everything is good, you have nothing to build and innovate. But if you inherit a situation that has challenges, it actually presents a great opportunity. So for me, this was a great opportunity to help people to see that the bank could be different. And I think we have more people who believe now that the bank is different and who did not in the past, which is. That's very important to me. But I mean, legacy is not something that I think about a whole lot. I think that's for the people who work with to determine how they want to see my career when it ultimately comes to an end. I think what my focus has been, however, is on impacting the people who work here.
I would like to see a bank that is very stable, that's respected in the community, is trusted. I mean, that word trust is so important because there's the whole edifice of a bank. And the bank doesn't have unnecessary interference from political entities. And that's why I say it will be respected. And it continues to be along the path of growth and our benefit to the shareholders, enhance the benefit to shareholders.
I think I've been very lucky in my career that I've worked in circumstances where I've been forced to learn how to become resilient, learn how to come back at it every day. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday, and get back to the things that you need to do. And seeing that start to take hold in the bank, where when we get together every Monday at the executive team or every month at management team, people are getting comfortable with the iterative process of and look, it seems like drudgery in the beginning, but then it gets like a bit of a fun one, because I say to them all the time, you just have to look back. Just look back at what we had on the list before and what we don't have now, and you'll see the progress that we have made, and that confidence is starting to build in the company, where people believe that, yeah, we can execute, we can do things, we can become like the international banks in terms of capacity. We can be world class, because we're not there on every level, but on these levels we are pretty close.
The Pathways to Prosperity is ongoing, shaped by vision, discipline, and shared commitment. Managing Director Rolf Phillips has led Bank of St. Lucia with clarity, resilience, and a firm resolve to secure its future. But leadership is never a solitary pursuit. It is the steady hand of the chairman, the guidance of the board, the strength of the executive, and the commitment of every team member that turn vision into reality. As this chapter of the BOSL story comes to a close, the foundation remains solid, the mission clear, and the focus firmly on what lies ahead. At this juncture in the journey, the bank stands as the #1 financial institution in the Eastern Caribbean and has recorded the largest profit in its history, a testament of strategic clarity, operational strength, and customer confidence. The BOSL story does not end here. It continues with heart and purpose, carried forward by a promise to uplift lives, empower dreams, and serve every generation with unwavering care.
The team, I really think we're in the teeth of 2025. We got it. Let's do this.
So, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause to those on our panel at this time. So our final panel is about vision and execution. A conversation centered on what's being achieved and what we aspire for nationally. It's a powerful mix of leadership. Leadership grounded in clarity, accountability, and delivery. Leadership that keeps priorities in focus and drives steady progress. As we transition into this discussion, taking the insight, the perspective, and the practical thinking that will help shape the road ahead. So let's meet our panelists. Under his leadership, the bank has risen to #1 status in the OECS. He has led BOSL since 2020, bringing 40+ years of banking and leadership experience, and he's known for motivating high-performance teams. And when I say this gentleman leads from the front, I mean it because he's usually the first on the dance floor at any after party. Just wait, you'll see in a bit. Ladies and gentlemen, Rolf Phillips. She is the bank's chief financial officer with over 20 years of service, and her financial management has helped grow it into a $4 billion institution. And don't let the calm voice fool you. Under it is a calculated mind that trades in 3-letter codes that would put you on the spot. You know, ROI, KPI, P&L. Everybody, the best CFO ever, Keitha Auguste. She is one of St. Lucia's standout business leaders, managing director of True Value Group of companies spanning hardware, supermarket, printing, and land development. In other words, she builds, supplies, stocks, prints, and hands you the keys. Oh, and yes, she knows everything. I mean, she does. I know so personally. Ladies and gentlemen, my very, very dear friend, Deborah Tobier. And finally, a second-generation hotelier with the credentials to match. He is the executive director of Bay Gardens Resorts, locally owned, locally led. He's also held major regional tourism leadership roles, serves on BOSL Investments board as yet, and yes, he was mentored by his mother, Joyce Destang, who spared no effort in transferring her shrewdness and toughness to him. So you could say in that Bay Garden, the Pomsete doesn't fall far from the tree. It just lands and starts running the place. Ladies and gentlemen, Synovnik Destang. So we'll start our question and answer session now. And we will start with Mr. Rolf Phillips. Rolf, this is very much, I know that you don't think a lot of your legacy, but this is very much part of something that you've been one of the bricklayers. What's your sense of pride coming out of all of this at this time?
Yeah, I think this is indeed a proud moment for the bank to be in this position overall. And for me, as I said, when we started to conceive this Bank of St. Lucia story, it was because of what I found out about the history of the bank. When I came into this job, I read pretty much every, my office has a whole lot of annual reports, and I read through this whole process in the bank. But what struck me was the words that have been said, a lot been said by Kenny Anthony around the reason why this bank was created, and that it was to bring assets, to transfer assets back to the people of St. Lucia. And it occurred to me that because of the difficulty that the bank had been to before I got there, we kind of lost our soul. Didn't have any bearings around where the bank was and what people actually believed in. So starting to build off of that and saying, look, this is in fact an important national institution, and there is good reason for us to take a hold of it and work through these difficulties with structure and discipline and process to bring the bank out of that dark period, which is what we are doing and we are continuing to build on. So yes, indeed, it's a proud moment for me and for the bank.
And you're saying that for that period of time, it was just really, truly functional and process driven, but there was no ethos and that was in place, and no pathos either. You were just in a state of ticking boxes. But what you've done is you've brought passion, inspiration, feeling, and purpose into the institution at this time.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I looked at the mission vision of the bank at the time, it was clearly a mission vision that was just about survival. It was, about a return to profitability. Our bank, large, secure, profitable. So it spoke to a mission that says, hey, we just have to get out of this circumstance that we're in to return the bank to some measure of profitability. But once we started to, that mission does not necessarily inspire people to believe in something that's bigger than themselves. So we convinced the board that the bank was already starting to take a hold of its structure and starting to see some measure of improvement in our performance. And we said, look, we need to get a mission vision that is bolder, that people can see it, that has national significance. And the board were convinced, and we got together and did a lot of work on a broad-based, with staff from all levels of the bank for the first time involved in putting words together that we could aspire to. And we came up with this vision of this purpose statement about empowering people to succeed. And for us, that means all stakeholders of the bank, customers, staff. And it sort of gave us the basis to galvanize the support of staff into saying, like, this is a national institution. We are really important. We're almost as big as a utility in terms of our meaning for the country. So we need to embrace that purpose and to build a strong bank around it.
Well said. Sat next to you is Deborah Tobier. She's had a journey with you as well. I don't think that it's all butterflies and roses. She's had her own challenges that I've had to counsel her on at times. I'm just kidding. But we've spoken at length in terms of what that's looked like. So I'm going to ask her to maybe just share a little bit about that passage of time that you've had, Debbie, with the bank.
Thank you, Ernie. I've been with Bank of St. Lucia, I would say, probably about 24, 25 years of the 28 years this year that we have been in operation. We did have a very difficult period. I distinctly remember during the years 2013 to 2017. I think that despite my conduct and my performance as a business owner, the bank understandably went through a very difficult period itself. We're also very minor shareholders. But what I remember is that during that time, I was navigating those waters, having expanded very heavily in the initial, let's say 5 years of owning the business. I kept remembering that our customers make our business. And I would say that during that time, whilst we understood the regulatory aspect and the restructuring and the steps that the bank had to take, I think that along the way they forgot their customers that built the bank. So even as we changed as a business, we had to grow from being a mom and pop store. My husband is very well known in the community, so everybody comes in and says, listen, I built my whole house with you. All I need is the paint and the doors, give me credit. We had to go through that period of transitioning as well and change our credit policies significantly. But whilst we're nurturing that relationship, speaking to our customers, making them understand and empathize with us and what we have to deal with, how we have to pay our suppliers, and if we don't get our money in 30 days, we can't pay our suppliers, right? So we really kept in touch with what was happening on the ground during that period of transition. And I guess to Bank of St. Lucia's credit, they made me more resilient as a business owner. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that. But you're also grooming a second generation. Tell us a little bit about that process as well.
Yes, I'm very proud and happy to have my daughter, who is here in the audience, Kristen Hamal, and our son, Kenneth Tobier, in the business. I think it's really important for them to understand, again, the same philosophical values, the things we've stood for over all of the years, almost 3 decades in business. And for them to understand that even as we now experience prosperity and it's not as difficult to manage the business from a financial risk perspective, that they understand all of those basic things that we have done over the years, and it never becomes something that is out of our sight. So even as we look at handing over the reins at some point, it's really, really important to me, and they probably hear it all too often, that they have to understand that we need to empathize, we need to, engage in our CSR. It's part of who we are. It's very good that along the way they saw that transition as well, from those years that maybe I was not the nicest boss to have, to what it is today. And they understand. And I think that's going to have more of an impact in ensuring that we can pass on generational wealth, and even to the point that my granddaughter, Evelyn, who's now 8 years old, and she's kind of like a little boss herself, she understands it from that leadership perspective as well.
So for those of you who don't know, the True Value is based in Vieux Fort. Only wonderful things come out of Vieux Fort, by the way. I need for you to know. I was born in Pierrot. I was just kind of, I'm just putting it out there, okay? All right. So while we're talking about succession planning, next generation, Synovnik, you are second generation. And your mom even mentioned to me during our interview that even, I think your son as well is beginning to cut his teeth on interest in the organization and some of her other grandkids. But tell us what that's like. And by the way, love the socks. Flags and all. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay,
yeah. Independence.
Hey, come on, it's independence. Yes, from head to toe. All right, talk to us, please.
Yeah, one of the things that really made me so proud listening to the Bank of St. Lucia's story, a lot of it is new to me, and I think it's important that we document these things for future generations, lest persons like myself forget where we came from, was a heavy influence of female leadership at Bank of St. Lucia, and how many have risen to the top and are still in very prominent positions. And I think that doesn't just apply to Bank of St. Lucia as an employer, but also applies to them as a banker. Because I am also on the board have been on the board of the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, for many years, and currently the president until the end of this year. And one of the things that you learn is who owns different hotels in the Caribbean and what demographic they fit. And basically, they fit a certain demographic. Party old boys club, very often not local, very often of a certain complexion. And Joyce Destang basically has broken every single one of these glass ceilings, owning the largest. Bay Gardens is the largest hotel chain owned and founded by a Black Caribbean female investor.
Round of applause, everybody. Amazing.
And that's something that we're extremely proud of. And Bank of St. Lucia has been part of that story for all 31 years that Bay Gardens has been in existence. Bank of St. Lucia and its predecessor companies have been with us, have been partners. It hasn't always been all peaches and cream and all butterflies and roses. There have been times, as my mother alluded to, where we had to negotiate hard for what we wanted. As you said, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. But there have been times that we almost left, to be honest with you. And it was very serious. It was really that close. But of course, we did stay the course at Bank of St. Lucia. It's very important when you go into negotiation, I guess, to see the other side of the story as well. But they also understood what was happening in the global market and what the international banks were doing to become more competitive. And I'm really proud that the Bank of St. Lucia was able to come to terms. I mean, let's just say that there's no hotelier special per se, as you may have asked, but Bank of St. Lucia is not losing money on the Bay Gardens portfolio. That much is certain. But we are also very happy that we have a very competitive position that has allowed us to grow, that has allowed us to develop from one hotel with 45 rooms to now 5 hotels with 233 rooms and counting.
And for those of you who may not know, Synovnik is KPMG Canada trained. He's a CA and a CPA, so he is well paired with another accountant, the Chief Financial Officer for Bank of St. Lucia, Keitha Ogis, who has really and truly been a catalyst, a very strong force in stabilizing the institution. I think she is one of the principal collaborators of the CEO. I believe every decision she's brought into that office next door. Tell us a little bit about what that's been for you as you've navigated ensuring that resilience is where the trajectory that you've helped to create.
Okay, thank you, Uni. It has been a very humbling experience for me because when I started off, I never expected that I would grow to that magnitude. I did all of it with love for what I do, and it just, over time, I just saw it bear fruit. The entire experience from having witnessed the bank go through the challenges and being there and assisting with all of the strategies that we adopted to see the bank back now on a strong footing, and being right there as well to help the bank remain stable and on top have been really, really the best experience.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. We have also seen diversification of the portfolio of the bank. We have the establishment of the BOSL Financial Management Company, of which Synovnik is one of the directors. Tell us a little bit about what gave rise to that institution and how it's doing so far, Rolf.
Well, I mean, the great thing about the bank is that Bank of St. Lucia, even before I got there, had good solid bones. We had already had an investment company that was primarily managing the bank's own funds as its biggest portfolio. But with growing expertise, and we had a team already of about 6 or 7 people managing our own investments, and we had pushed that out to manage pension funds on behalf of some companies around the OECS. So in my interviews with staff, just trying to figure out where opportunities lie, the manager of investment banking at the time said to me, look, we've had this idea kicking around to start a series of mutual funds for the bank. And I said, okay, let me understand what expertise we have that has capacity to do that. And once I was convinced, I can see huge potential in that area, because the central bank had already set a mandate for getting more involvement in investing as part of wealth generation for the people of the OECS, and it was a chance for us to play a part in that. I mean, it took us 2 years to get it done. However, it was very difficult to navigate all of the regulatory environment, and it part of that requirement caused us to have to separate the management of the mutual fund from the management from Bank of St. Lucia and create a separate company. So all of that was very difficult. It gave us a real opportunity to now be able to offer an investment management company that, while it carried the name and backing of Bank of St. Lucia, it was called Bank of St. Lucia Fund Management Company. So a little bit of separation, which means that we could go to other companies, including other financial institutions, especially because we know how hard it is to build a set of mutual funds, and say, look, you can join us as a broker. You don't have to start all over. You can sell all mutual funds. We can manage investments on your behalf. And the company, we just launched the mutual fund in Antigua to great reception. We launched in St. Vincent. We will soon launch in Grenada and through the OECS. But it really gives us a chance to be a part of this next phase of wealth creation across the OECS by bringing investment and wealth creation to many more people than would have had access before.
Yeah, definitely. Sinovnik, in terms of relationship banking and the importance of banks being more flexible in how they view the business space, are you heartened that Bank of St. Lucia is sort of not like your kind of typical bank that just looks at figures but also takes into consideration the broader 50,000 feet of the ground view of a situation with some level of vision? Do you think that Bank of St. Lucia is getting there? How does that work out?
I think certainly, well, I did mention at some point we almost parted ways.
Yeah.
And as part of that, we formed a secondary relationship with another bank that we almost went to. And in dealing with the two, it's very clear that Bank of St. Lucia is really different from a flexibility standpoint. And you saw that firsthand during COVID, right? Now, I know a lot of hotels and other businesses got moratoriums and so on, but they had to wait quite some time for the hospitality sector to bounce back. And when I compare to some of the stories from hoteliers in other islands dealing with other non-indigenous banks, it's very clear that Bank of St. Lucia is very much there. There are things, of course, that can be improved upon when it comes to that, but I was very, very satisfied with that, because that was perhaps the worst thing that many of us had been through in the hospitality sector and just overall in the business sector. Hopefully nothing that we will go through again, but at least you know that if you do go through something like that again, whether it's geopolitical driven or economic or other shocks and challenges, that you have a partner in Bank of St. Lucia who is patient and is going to be willing to wait with you for that turnaround and really be a partner with you during that difficult time.
Very well said. How do you, Keith, really have that delicate balance between aggressive growth but managing and controlling and being very fiscally prudent, knowing that overnight, especially in very interesting times, things can turn on a dime?
Okay, well, we know we can't remain stagnant. We definitely have to grow the business. So any initiative for growth, I ensure that every value created could pay for itself. So on an ongoing basis, I ensure that there's proper cost-benefit assessments and that any initiative to grow the business aligns to our strategic vision, that it actually, it either grows the core business or it creates new forms of generating income and also creates value for our customers. And that, as we indicated, our new vision mission is to power success for individuals. So we ensure that it's all aligned to our strategic vision. Also, we ensure that we have internal capacity, because it's very easy for us to grow, but grow without thinking. So we ensure that we have the people, the systems, and the bandwidth to ensure that we don't encounter any cost overruns. It's very important for us to continue to safeguard our capital that we've worked so hard to build. So we also ensure we have a good ROI, return on our investment, before we go ahead. And we also ensure that we prioritize adequately, that there is no other initiative or that is that is more important, that we're not rushing, we have to think clearly, just so that we ensure that with the limited resources that we have, that we go the right route. So as much as we want to grow carefully and not carelessly.
Very good. I told you all, don't let that calm, sweet voice fool you. She's fire in there. And Debbie, final question to you. Moving forward, how do you see that relationship with the bank growing?
Well, after having been here so long, I see the relationship only growing. As a matter of fact, we are now negotiating significant finance. And even though I did say to Janelle recently that I'm a bit risk averse and I have not negotiated such significant loans since 2006, but I guess now it's something that I can look 5 years, 10 years down the line. And one of the things I'd like to see happening, though, is that the bank engages in more public information sharing. I think there is legislation afoot now to actually have a credit reporting bureau, which is something that's really going to strengthen the bank locally and even regionally to engage in lending. But also to just include some sort of education for the consumer. Financial literacy is very important to ensure that as the bank moves along with the various programs, initiatives, credit cards, loans, etc., that this also strengthens our society's ability to manage it responsibly.
Thank you. Final words from you, Rolf, as we bring the curtains down on this panel. Again, moving forward, what's in the crystal ball?
Well, I think as on this issue of financial literacy, it's a really important initiative for the bank. But first, we had to do a lot of work to build up the level of knowledge internally so that our people can take part in their financial literacy programs. They themselves had to be financially literate, and we launched, I think, about 3 years now. We launched an internal university called Bank of St. Lucia University, and we recognized at the time that people needed to understand banking. There really was not a lot of core training in banking, so we developed a first course on law and practice of banking, and we now in our third cohort of internal staff. So this is about 30, I think, individuals who have completed, and we now started our third cohort with about 20 people we hire. We have a lawyer on contract who delivers that course to our staff to help them to become more professional. And we also brought in that the bank pays a license with a company called Coursera to make available a whole vast of courses, training courses in finance to our team that they access for free. And we're now up to, I think, about 1,500 hours of staff utilization in that program to train and develop themselves. So now when we go around the country as led by our marketing team, we go on the radio, we go on television, we go to communities. We have a range of staff who are very capable to provide financial education to our customers, and they can take part in that. I mean, we see ourselves very much aligned with the programs of the government and with the central bank to develop the country. That imperative is important to us, and as the bank builds up its capital base, it means we can provide more funding to bigger projects. We can lead syndications where we bring banks together to provide funding for national development projects, including both commercial and public sector. So it's key. The bank needs to stay on this path where it keeps generating capital and becoming stronger. We just about a little bit short of $4 billion in assets, and we expect to do everything we can internally to keep Bank of St. Lucia growing. St. Lucia is in fact the largest geography, which means that we have more people available to do business with than any other country in the OECS, and as a result of that, our institutions should lead the way. We have enough scale if we run a good, credible bank to lead the way going forward, and we intend, with the support of the board, to do that.
We want to thank our panel very much. Ladies and gentlemen, our leadership panel, as they make their way down. And the momentum of this morning's program has been pretty good. We have just two more aspects on the program. We'll have the feature address by the Honorable Prime Minister and then final closing remarks by the chairman. But at this time, we'll just run through some very interesting, engaging testimonials that we'd like to share with you at this time.
You know, a real great BOSL story isn't just about your own success. It's about how you help others along the way, empowering them up to succeed in every part of their lives.
Man, I gotta say, I'm one lucky guy. Working here at BOSL, having mentors like Lawrence, it's been a game changer. Lawrence knows how to balance life and handle some serious pressure.
Well, Yusuf, he has a very bright future here at the bank. He's got a drive, teachable spirit, and always willing to go the extra mile. I see a lot of potential in him.
When I first came here as an intern, I just kind of hit the ground running. I moved around a bit, learning as much as I could, soaking it all in. Now, my plan is to build a solid career here, climb the ladder, and see how far I could go.
Looking back at my 30 years at Bank of St. Lucia, if I had to do it again, I'd still choose BOSL. No regrets at all.
It started like it was yesterday, April 1st, All Fools Day, 1996. I got a call, so I was not sure if it was a prank. I can remember myself outside the bank, waiting for the bank to open, and then to see if it actually got the job.
I see my mother as, someone I want to be just like when I'm older. I see how she puts in.
Let's go, hurry up.
The hard work.
It has been a very fulfilling experience for me. Joining the bank as a teller and making it all the way to the CFO. I have a great team that I work with. I could not fulfill all these requirements on my own.
She has to work hard to achieve her career goals. That's one of the things I admire on a Saturday. All of us come to the living room and, we watch a movie just to let her relax. Because if I don't, oh my gosh, she's going to spend the whole day working.
Managing the finances of the now largest financial institution in the OECS comes with its fair share of challenges. Every single experience, I think, has been very beneficial to me.
I was just 6 years old when our True Value story started. Mommy and Daddy decided to take a huge leap of faith by starting a hardware store down here in the south in Vieux Fort. Back then it was a pretty small town, not much going on, so it was a pretty big risk. As kids, we were always watching and learning, and there's one thing that always stood out. You can't run a successful business without a good bank behind you. For us, that's been Bank of St. Lucia. Today we've diversified and grown. We've got a hardware, a signage printery, a supermarket, and a fully integrated land and property development. My sister Kristen and I are stepping up with plans to eventually take over from our parents, with plans to keep it all in the family. These are truly exciting times for us, and we're glad that Bank of St. Lucia is part of the journey.
For as long as I can remember, Bank of St. Lucia has been a part of my life. It started 35 years ago with my mom, Palace Eaton, who worked at the National Commercial Bank, NCB, that later became Bank of St. Lucia. I'd sit in her office for hours sometimes, observing her work. My very first account was with Bank of St. Lucia. My student loan, my first credit card, and even the business loan that helped me start my business to sell was all made possible with Bank of St. Lucia. When my mom passed, it was one of the hardest moments of my life. We were extremely close, especially being the only child. She always supported my dreams and gave me so many wonderful memories. But one of the greatest things that she gave me was my introduction to my financial partner, Bank of St. Lucia. And for that, I will always be grateful.
I met Tevin in Form 4 at the Edgewood Secondary School, and we've been inseparable ever since.
It was love at first sight. But more than that, we became partners in everything.
After school, I became a teacher and Tevin worked as a bursar, but I always knew there was more in him.
Alright, you want me to start back, right? Yeah, when you're ready. Many nights she would say, Tev, come to bed. But I couldn't stop. I knew I was onto something.
Then one day, Tevin came home from the supermarket. His eyes lit up. Lave, he said. His dream was coming to life.
Lave was born, our own line of laundry products. More than just dishwashing liquid, soap, or softener, we were building a legacy.
Our bank BOSL, they believed in us. They saw our dream and they are helping us grow.
Everything I do is for our family. For our daughter, Lave is our legacy.
With BOSL at our side, we're just getting started.
Hey!
Round of applause. Persons to dream on. So what we have witnessed today is an inheritance built by those before, carried by those now, and meant for generations to come. And in that same spirit of stewardship, it's only fitting that we now hear from the country's Prime Minister, who has had a grueling few days of engagements as we are in the heart of independence, yet still, he found the time to be here this morning. Let us show our gratitude as I welcome Prime Minister Honorable Philip J. Pierre to the podium. This way. Yeah, I know you have skills. I know you have skills.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Let me recognize my cabinet colleagues, the manager, the CEO, managing director of Bank of St. Lucia, the board of directors, customers, staff, all of you of a higher net worth than me. So I am in good company. First of all, let me congratulate the innovators, the people who started that bank, that institution in 1979. I was around that time. I wasn't deeply involved, but I was around. And I just wanted to tell you that that was a vision. And there's a belief that the party that I belong to is anti-government and anti-business. And even my friend Everest said something a while ago, which I will defend. Everest spoke about political interference. There's a major difference between political interference and political responsibility. That's a major difference. As I sit there, I've got more than 20 calls for people who tell me they have no water. They have no water. I cannot tell them to go to anybody at Wasco or go to anybody in a bank. They ask me for water. And that is what I always say to people in positions, to technocrats, to bankers, to consultants, that you must understand that our life is very much different to your lives. You report to shareholders, and sometimes, in the case of people like the IMF, they report to computers. And if you allow me some time to talk about that experience, because I know many people think of politicians, they're very cynical about us, and these fellas, and most of them are corrupt, and they're very cynical about politicians. It is a belief that politicians, they don't believe in anything, they only want to use people, and they're looking after the vote, etc. A belief which is really not true. And when you sit in a cabinet, and men tell you the pain that they go through with their constituents, realize that we are not only about getting votes. Of course, we want to get votes. Of course. So I just want to see that you must understand what we go through. And I'll come and tell you about the IMF story. The IMF, they have something they call an Article 4 inspection or something. And they come and look at your books and they advise you. The last set of IMF officials who came to me said to me that our minimum wage was too high. He went into his computer and he put a few things together there, and he told me the minimum wage ought to be $980. So it's too high, and it's going to be a disincentive to investment. I was in the boardroom in the office. I stood up, I said to him, look on that hill there. He said, what do you mean? I showed him Pavé. I tell him, you see up there? People live there. People, not computers, people. People live there. Now I want you to come with me and go and tell them. That $980 is too much money for them to get every month. And he couldn't understand what I was saying. He was like, what are you talking about? I said, you see, sir, when you leave here, you go into your car and you drive back to Washington. I have to pass there to go to my home. So you can remain in your ivory tower and say whatever you want. But my reality is I have to go to my home. And these people will ask me, will tell me they have no money, they have no food to give their children to go to school. That's the reality we face. So I really want you to understand that politicians are not always people who just corrupt and looking for votes and trying to fool people and things. That's not really true. And I must say that Bank of St. Lucia has, under certain circumstances, understood that. They have. But I will say, there's a lot more to do. And I want to challenge them to deal with the housing issue in this country. Housing in terms of really affordable housing. Really affordable. And that means that we have to be able to develop instruments that will deal with people who are leasing land. We have the innovation, we have the brain power to work that out. This is my challenge to Bank of St. Lucia. Deal with the housing situation in this country. Because St. Lucia has a very ostentatious housing pattern in some areas. But we cannot continue to allow large parts of the country to deteriorate and say, and call them, these people living in them places. If we allow that to happen, in our palatial residence, as we go further up north, we will not be able to live there. Because the society must not develop in a dual nature, where one set of people have all the advantages, they seem to be prospering, and the others, and a large majority of that other side, seem to be living a life of degradation, getting poorer, getting more desperate. Not an excuse for crime. Not an excuse for crime. I'm not one of the politicians that will tell you people commit crime because they're poor, because they're hungry. I don't believe in that. But I'm saying to you, we have to find a way to level the society. And the geopolitical nature of what's happening now does not allow us to do that. So people like our institutions, Bank of St. Lucia is the largest financial institution in the OECS. Bank of St. Lucia must put together instruments that will cause a leveling of that playing field, at least as far as housing is concerned. That is my challenge to the Bank of St. Lucia, the housing situation. I'm very pleased with Bank of St. Lucia. I am the Minister of Finance. The only thing Bank of St. Lucia gives me is a cheap pen at Christmas. I have no connection with them. Everest is my friend, he tells me nothing. And then he comes and talks about political interference. But, so I have absolutely no connection. I don't get involved in these things. All what I want the institutions to do is to deliver to the people that I serve. That's what I want. I need them to deliver to the people that I serve. So I don't have to interfere. I have enough things to deal with. Why? What must I want to know about a bank's balance sheet? Incidentally, I work in the bank for a while. Dixon knows that. So I want to congratulate you. I want to tell you to continue. And I want to tell you to stop looking at the technocrats in this room and the bankers. Stop looking at politicians as people who always are greedy, looking for votes, don't understand, always try to put themselves in things that don't concern them. Please don't look at us like that. We don't. My last salary change was in 2001. That's the last time I got a salary increase. 2001, right, Emma? So we're not always what people think we are. We're not. Most of us are not. Not what people think they are. But I think it's a perception that people see themselves, people see us the way they see them, the way they see themselves. And they assume that they will do what they think we do if they were us. I think that's an issue we have, because people see us as, I'm the prime minister, they are ministers, we have a certain amount of what we think is power. Really not really true, you know. And they perceive us as being something that we're not. So I want to congratulate you for this expose. I want to apologize for being late. I want to tell you I'm fully aligned to the ethos of the Bank of St. Lucia. I think that you're developing, you're growing without political interference. I have absolutely no reason to interfere in the Bank of St. Lucia. In fact, they might not allow me to interfere with them, because I think they are on the right track. Rob will tell you the government's finances are looking good. So we don't, and I think it's because of good management of the economy. So I'm very pleased to be here and wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for making the time to join and to honor us with the significance of this national moment with your presence. And now to conclude this morning's unveiling, we invite closing remarks from the chair of the Bank of St. Lucia. It is my pleasure to bring on board Mr. Everest Jean-Marie, who will... That's correct. I was about to tell you that this is no time for you to try to rival the Prime Minister. It's not good. It's not good. Yes. Please stand here. As you make your way. I need to tell you that when they say that they're good friends, they really are. Many lunches at Jean-Marie and Sons on an afternoon, like for nearly 2 decades, I'd go there and they were always breaking bread. So, but the fact that you don't tell him anything is rather interesting. Anyway,
well, I can't say that here.
That's correct. I'll leave you to it. Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of the board of directors.
Good morning to everyone. It is a fitting moment that as we celebrate our 47th independence, we are unveiling this BOSL story. This is a source of immense pride for me as a St. Lucian. We have reasons for a double celebration: our independence and our capacity to believe and act beyond the ordinary. As chairman of BOSL, it is an honor to have been given the opportunity to be part of the BOSL story. This milestone moment of 47 years of independence reminds us of the living responsibilities we have as an independent nation. The exercise of these responsibilities is an ongoing work of nation building, which has created a strong, dignified, and accomplished people. As part of the bank's accomplishment is the financial freedom that has been created for our people. Bank of St. Lucia has made it possible for our people to own their own homes, to educate themselves, to save for the future, and to build their homes. The lives of many St. Lucians have been transformed in this process. The BOSL Story is a reminder of the strong foundation upon which the bank continues to grow. As if to remind us of the duality of our country's major physical features and accomplishments, BOSL was the result of the merger between two great institutions, the National Commercial Bank and, as you heard, the St. Lucia Development Bank. The founders and pioneers of these financial institutions must be recognized for their vision and commitment, which has given birth to what is now the biggest financial institution by asset size and most profitable in the Eastern Caribbean Union. This BOSL story has not been without its challenges. The commitment of management and staff to the vision of the bank has enabled it to come through the most difficult times, while it continues to serve St. Lucians across generations. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to the dedicated and hardworking staff who stayed the course in pursuit of the bank's vision, and to our customers, without whom there is no business. Thank you for your loyalty and patience in an environment that has never been so heavily regulated. The growing use of technology is one we can't ignore if we are to remain relevant. In the digital transformation of the bank, we will remain mindful of keeping the needs of our customers at the center of this process. As I offer these closing remarks, I want to acknowledge the work of this board for their cooperation and dedication, and for articulating the bank's strategic direction. Thank you, fellow directors. In July this year, it will be 25 years since the Bank of St. Lucia became a merged entity. Another fitting occasion for celebration. Before I close, I extend sincere thanks to everyone who worked to bring this unveiling to life. The internal teams, the partners, and all who contributed behind the scenes. I offer special appreciation to the producer of BOSL Story and host of this event, Ernie St. Catherine, the CEO of Black Box Communications, and the production studios of Albiz Limited, with whom he collaborated to carve our story. To everyone with us in person and joining virtually, thank you for being part of this moment. May the BOSL story remind us of what is possible when a nation believes in itself. And may BOSL continue to strengthen the financial freedom of our people and businesses, and plays its part in nation building. Before I close, let me just make one comment. Not to respond really to the Prime Minister, we do that elsewhere. But there are sometimes you need to protect your Prime Minister. And in protecting your Prime Minister, there are times when the less he knows, the better for him. Thank you, and may God bless St. Lucia.
Thank you, my brother. That's called plausible deniability. I also want to recognize this morning, still morning. We've done really well, Rolf. The momentum has been there. Don't take him out as yet, but this little baby at the exit there is the great-grandchild of the great Victor Eudoxie, former chairman of Bank of St. Lucia. So we have about 3 generations of Eudoxies here with us today. His daughter, his granddaughter, and his great-grandson, Victor Eudoxie, Vicky Eudoxie, of precious and blessed memory. Thank you, Chairman Jamari. And to everyone who joined us this morning, thank you for sharing this moment with the BOSL family. For me personally, the journey over these past months has been wild and wonderful. Pulling this story together, the moments, the revelations, and shaping it into something we could all recognize and feel. So to the chairman, to Rolf, Jen and her team, and all those who have come together to help bring this to life, thank you for entrusting this story to us. The BOSL story is now preserved as a permanent part of our history for generations to come. To our auditorial and technical collaborators, Mitzi Allen of Hammer Productions and Albies Limited, led by Bradley Lacan. Special round of applause. They are the quiet fire. And of course, my long-suffering Black Box team, thank you. The story continues. And to my fellow St. Lucians everywhere, enjoy the rest of the holiday, whether it's beach or brunch. And to everyone else, goodbye and enjoy the rest of your day as we have one last video, just 30 seconds to show you. Thank you very much. Bonne journée.
Don't be nervous. You look gorgeous.
Right from the beginning, through every moment, when love leads to marriage, and now you're in the home that you own, and your family's grown.
BOSL, through all generations, the entire nation, the Bank of St. Lucia, it's all about you. We'll make your dreams come true. With BOSL, it's all about you. We're building your future at Bank of St. Lucia, the one that you can trust and believe. We're all the bank that you need.
Thank you.